It's an emotional call. I feel terrible for her. I had tears in my eyes. Bring it on. I've got it. I'm comfortable. I'm confident. Even if it's something I haven't seen before, I know what I'm going to do. Dang, what a ride. Like, I feel like that 30 minutes, we really achieved something. I feel a lot better.
Welcome to Medic Mindset. I'm Ginger Locke. In this episode, I talked to a medic who has been in the field for over a decade. After a very long talk with him in his home, I know without a doubt that if I needed EMS to care for me or my family, I'd hope he'd walk through the door. He and his wife welcomed me into their home where they pumped me full of coffee. And you'll hear his son come in and out of the episode, and that's not an accident. That's a core piece of this guest's character. His family is very important to him. He and his wife offered me a cozy den and unlimited time to poke around in his brain. And what came out is tremendously valuable. This episode is one I'd suggest you listen to more than once, because every time I've listened, I find something new to ponder. We start with me calling him to the mat about something he said on social media. There was a thread on Facebook where you made a comment that the job is, to you, pretty easy. Mm-hmm. Can you say more about that?
I willingly entered that conversation because it's something I've said plenty of times before. And it's something even though I expect and I know that not everybody agrees with me, I stand by the statement. When I first got into this job, I thought it was a very hard job. And what I realized after being in this job for a little while is I just wasn't comfortable yet. And now that I'm very comfortable in what I do, when I look back, general broad picture of what it is we do as paramedics, this is easy. Mm-hmm. Our operationally and medicine, and that's all easy stuff to me. The hard part of the job is the emotional and the mental aspect of the job. That's the only place that I feel like it actually gets tricky or difficult. Mm-hmm. You know, I've been in EMS a little over a decade now, and when I go to a call, no matter what the call is, I know exactly what I will be doing, can be doing with the tools I have. And I have no hesitations or doubts or any fear of any of it. Now, when you add into that equation emotions and stress, that's when things can get a little hard to handle.
Do you remember at what year it transitioned for you from feeling like a novice amateur, like this is hard, to, okay, what you're saying now, there's nothing I'm going to walk into that I haven't considered, seen before, mentally prepared for, or intellectually can't handle?
I thought that was around year 2, if I'm being honest with myself, where I fully feel comfortable. I think it takes you a good 5 years to really go, bring it on. I've got it. I'm comfortable. I'm confident. Even if it's something I haven't seen before, I know what I'm going to do. And I've figured out how to adapt and adjust on the fly because of my 5 years of doing that leading up to this point. So
I ask a question of new medics is, what's the call that you dread? And dread is a terrible word. Mm-hmm. What's the call that you mentally prepare for? You rehearse it in your mind. You're going to be challenged. Do you have any of those calls?
At some point in my career, there was a shift. As strange as it sounds, I was like most other people who, when you hear some GSW come out or bad car wreck, it kind of gets you a little excited, a little adrenaline pumping, and you're like, this is what I signed up for. This is what I went to school for. I wanted to see these things. And then there was a shift in me at some point where I don't want to see that stuff, and I dread seeing mutilated bodies is what I hate. I dread the death of people. I don't like giving that news to the family. I don't like seeing their reactions, or if it's, like a traumatic thing. I don't like seeing human bodies tore apart, and I think I'm kind of in the same, or I was in the same boat as most younger medics, where that stuff kind of was like, everybody kind of liked the gore and stuff like that. But at some point there was just a transition in me where I see that stuff and I'm like, I could have done without seeing that.
Right.
And I don't like that. Now, obviously, now that I have a young son as well, I really don't want to go on one of those calls. I could do without that ever happening. For example, not too many shifts ago, ran a call on an individual who was torn apart after striking a tree at a very high rate of speed. I think younger me would have been like, dang, that was pretty crazy, but older me is like, that's gross. Mm-hmm. I don't want to see a human like that. I don't know. My perspective on that has definitely changed. So,
yeah, same here. A transition point for me for sure was when I had a kid.
I think that's what did it. Yeah.
Our students do rotations at a pediatric hospital. We occasionally will go and check on them there. And I can say in the past when I've gone, I've wanted to tell me about the case. I wanted to know the medicine. Let's talk about what's going on with this kid. And I wanted to observe how the family was responding to the kid's illness. And I just wanted to know it. I wanted to get close to it and know it.
Yeah.
And now when I go, I don't even want to look in the room. Yeah. I just don't want to pile it on.
Yeah. I don't even find myself interested in those conversations of, we had this call one time. I don't even find myself interested in those conversations anymore. Just because, I don't know, I don't, those calls end up being the things that nightmares are made of, and I just, if you start talking about that in front of me, I'm going to be Rolodexing in my head of those types of calls I've run, and I don't want to relive all those all over again because I've, kind of worked hard to put those away. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Where are you going with all this? I know that you are going back to school to get your master's in healthcare administration. Mm-hmm. You have a bachelor's in business?
Yes.
Where's your career going?
Two-part answer. I strongly believe in education. I also strongly believe that our profession has become very stagnant in education, and I wanted to really practice what I preach there. And I also feel like that if people in our education tend to further themselves, it always seems to be kind of one-dimensional. They keep, I'm going back to school. And if you say, what for? You could almost say, wait, let me guess, nursing. And they're like, yeah, we're more than that. And that's not to say that's a bad thing by any means, because if that's what you want to do, then do it. But more than half of the time, they respond with something along the lines of, yeah, I don't really want to be a nurse, but it just seems like the easiest transition. And I'm like, that's not the reason to do it, And so business really interested me. It's very applicable to what I want to do in this profession, which is, I'm an officer now at where I work, but I one day like to be a leader of maybe an EMS department. So I got my business degree, learned a lot, but I also felt like there was a lot left to be learned as far as healthcare specifics are concerned. So I started looking for master's programs in healthcare administration, healthcare management, something like that, because I just feel if I'm to achieve a goal that I want, it can't just be about me. So say I come to your EMS, you worked for such and such EMS department, and I just really wanted to go lead that place, and I show up. What does that do for you if I show up there and I just haven't done the due diligence of educating myself the best of my ability to best prepare myself for that job? I'm failing you, and I'm failing, I'd be failing myself just because I was so gung-ho about that goal, but I didn't properly prepare myself for when I get there.
I want to comment on that. So many of our leaders have gotten into leadership roles just simply by being, and it's not simple, I shouldn't simplify it. They've been model employees, put a lot into their department, know a lot about the department, worked hard, established rapport with everyone within the department, and they rise up, and they have no formal training on how to lead. And when they fail as managers, it's so obvious to me. It's like, well, why would they be good at that? Where would they have picked up those skill sets other than watching a role model? And that role model also probably wasn't formally trained in how to manage people or resources. I applaud you for getting the formal education. That's what our leaders need.
There's my little boy naked.
Good thing this is audio only.
Yeah.
I want to talk about him a little bit because what I'm noticing is that you appear to be balancing career aspirations with family life. Are you?
Yeah, I feel like I am. I wasn't. I mean, I think it's an acquired skill. I had to learn to manage my time. So towards the end of my bachelor's degree is where I learned to properly manage work, extracurriculars at work, going to school, and family time. So I'm about to enter my master's feeling like I've got that down pretty well.
What modifications did you make? What kind of hints can you give to people? Because a lot of people listening to this are paramedic students while simultaneously working. They're juggling a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Well, you and I kind of talked about it earlier a little bit in reference to downsizing your lifestyle in general. You have to be disciplined and make the necessary adjustments in your life in order to have the proper balance. It used to be whenever I would look at EMS services, one of the questions I would always ask to recruiters is, how much overtime y'all got available? Because I'm going to pick that overtime up. It became quite obvious to me that life's not about overtime. It's about creating a life for yourself where you can exist off of or not just exist, but do well and thrive off of the base salary. Because overtime takes more time away from your family and it can lead to burnout. So I made the necessary adjustment to where I didn't have to work so much overtime. I didn't have to have a second job or a business. And I got rid of those. That's what it boils down to. If you decide that you need more family time, you need to be dedicated in that commitment and just do it. You need to make the adjustments. They're hard. I know firsthand they're hard, but you got to do it. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, your personal life will suffer.
Right. Or your mental health.
Yes.
Because you'll burn the candle at both ends.
Yes. And that is, to anybody listening, that is a extremely true statement. Burning the candle at both ends. When I was young in EMS, I was also young as a person, and I didn't believe in that because I had so much energy and I could stay up all night on 48s, and then go to a side job or then go to school, but that wears on you.
Well, I want to switch gears a little bit. Why do you think that you've had success and that you continue to enjoy the job? Because a lot of people quit finding pleasure there and leave it, right?
Yeah, these questions you're asking me today, they're great questions because they're all questions I've spent so much time thinking about to myself in my head, or I've had a conversation about it with other people. That question in particular is a question that has come up a lot.
You appear very happy in the career. You want to stay in EMS. You don't want to jump ship. How'd you get to that spot?
I've accepted EMS is what it is. I still wake up every morning happy that I'm going to work. Now, obviously, I'd much rather be home with my family, but we all got to work. I'm happy that it's there, and not someplace else or doing something different, I guess you could say. I still enjoy the job, and I think it's because, and I still, if I want to pick up an overtime shift, maybe some extra vacation money or something like that, I got no issue with it. I think it's because I have accepted the job for what it is. I had high hopes and expectations of the types of calls I would be going on, and I feel like it was painted a different way. I don't know if that was school or the movies or just society in general. It was maybe painted a different way, and then when I got into it, noticed it really wasn't like that. I think that really, really bugs some people, and it really turns them sour and bitter, and I think I've just accepted it for what it is. I mean, it's not STEMIs and gunshot victims and cardiac arrest all day long. It's a lot of the opposite, and I enjoy talking to people. I don't know. I feel like because I've become at peace with the job is why I'm happy here. At the end of the day, it's just a job. Mm-hmm. It's really all it is. My life isn't being a paramedic. I go to work, I do a job, I try to do that job really well, and I come home. Mm-hmm. I'm just happy it's that job. Even if somebody calls me for some chronic complaint, maybe at first when the tones go off and I hear that, I'm like, really? It's really easy just to set yourself straight and go, you could be doing something you really don't enjoy. I mean, this is going to take you like 45 minutes or an hour. Like, get over yourself.
You're describing how this idea that the job is different than the way it's understood, like on a mass level. I've called that the EMS bait and switch. Yeah. You said maybe it happened at school, and you're absolutely right. It does happen at school. So our curriculum is built on
the 10%.
It's built on teaching and assessing how people can handle medical emergencies. We spend very little time on the softer skills or the non-urgent complaints.
Yeah.
So there's a mismatch there, and I think it does lead to burnout.
I think some people have a hard time getting over that, which I'm not particularly sure why, because I couldn't imagine if it was the other way around. If 90% of my job was running STEMIs and cardiac arrest, I'd just be done at some point. Like, all right, this is alrighty. I mean, adrenaline dump 24 hours straight.
Yeah.
I am more than happy and thankful for the mundane,
I do.
So
what characteristics, let's say you're a hiring committee of one, and you could list the top 3 things you're looking for in a paramedic. Can you think of things that really make or break somebody?
Yeah, that's a hard question. That's always the, if I ever get that on an interview, I'm always like, man, that's a hard question.
When you think of the model paramedic, who's that person?
The ideal paramedic, I think, is, I know drive is a vague word, but it is such an important characteristic. You have to have the drive to better yourself. I work with somebody right now, and I'll get back to the other characteristics, but I work with somebody right now who, he's done this a couple of times, and I admire this about him. We run a call, and he's been a medic for a little while. I think he's 4 or 5 years, maybe. We've run a couple of calls where the end diagnosis is something he doesn't know a lot about. He has said out loud, well, I got some reading to do when I get back, and we'll come back to the station. I'm kind of a busybody, so I'll be walking around, and I'll walk by his room a couple times, always look in, make sure he's still breathing, and I see him in there, and he's researching it. Yeah. And I'm like, good for you. I mean, a lot of people at that stage would be like, never heard of that. That's weird. And kind of move on, But he's like, I know what that is. I just don't know a ton about it. Here I come Wikipedia, or here I come Google. And that takes drive, a want to better yourself. And you got to, because, our field's ever changing, and we go to school, we learn a lot in school, but you can't teach us everything. So drive, that's important. This is healthcare. This is people's lives. So I know integrity is such a commonly used answer, but it really is extremely important. You have somebody's life in your hands. You have to be filled with integrity. You have to do the right thing. And if you don't do the right thing, you have to have the integrity to also self-report. I think you have to be compassionate. I completely disregard the teaching of don't show emotion. And I know not everybody teaches this, but it is taught in some places. Be very blunt in your announcements to family about bad news. I completely disagree with that. I'm not an emotional person, but I'd be lying if I ever told you I haven't shed a tear while telling somebody that their 16-year-old son who hung himself is dead. And I'm just simply not going to walk up to that mother and give her the blunt answer, sorry for your loss, maybe a pat on the shoulder, and walk away from her. I'm going to walk up. It's an emotional call. I feel terrible for her. I had tears in my eyes. I gave her a hug. Show them you're human. If it upsets you, show them. I guarantee you they appreciate that. Yeah. Their loved one meant something to you. You have to have compassion, empathy, compassion. And you have to be willing to show it. Heck, the rest, that's a good foundation. The rest could be learned. So,
as you were talking, I was thinking, oh man, the question I wish I had asked, what paramedic would you want to walk into your house, right?
And this is going to sound arrogant, sorry. but I want me walking in or someone like me, because I feel like I got a lot of drive. I feel like I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to be compassionate with you, and I'm going to be empathetic. You're going to definitely feel like you have a real caring human being walk through that door, treating you or your family member, and that I absolutely am trying my hardest.
I feel like we're telling paramedic students a lot in this conversation. When you thought about this interview, are there concepts you want to communicate to them?
There's certainly things I wish I could tell younger me. I know I am not a 20-year medic or a 25-year medic. Take what I say with a grain of salt, being 11 years on an ambulance, but I still feel like that's a good amount of time. But longevity is really important. You absolutely need to take care of yourself, mentally, physically. Find an EMS service that will take care of you. Your search for an EMS service should not be about, do you have the latest and greatest equipment? Do you have a lot of overtime available? Now, yes, equipment is important, but I was the recruiter for a little while, and I felt like I got asked a lot of questions that I really wanted to tell the candidate that's not an important thing to me. I mean, everybody's list of priorities is different. Yes, our ambulances are nice. Yes, our equipment's nice. But more importantly, we're going to take care of you. You're going to be told, and not necessarily by your instructors, but like maybe your classmates will say something along the lines of, I didn't get in this to get rich. Mm-hmm. Well, no, we're not going to get rich, but you certainly didn't get in this to be poor.
Right.
After all, if you don't have a family now, you probably will one day, and you need to take care of them. Right. And you need to take care of yourself, and you don't need to just completely tear yourself apart doing it.
When you become a paramedic, you have value, and make sure you're being compensated appropriately for that value.
I think everybody now, most EMS services offer medical benefits and some form of retirement. If I could change one thing about multiple things, but one of the things about younger me is I would have gotten into a secondary retirement quicker. You guys need to do that. You need to get into a secondary retirement quicker. You need to have a proper work-life balance, except that EMS isn't code 3 returns 24/7. Prepare yourself for a lot of mental health and psychiatric interactions with the public, because you're going to see that a lot. And you need to take care of you. You do come first. We are here to serve the patients, the general, the public, but absolutely you and your family come before anything else. And that's my advice. Put you first. And I don't mean that in a selfish way. You have to take care of you, otherwise everything else suffers. Talk to people who in the field who actually work for that service or that hospital system, wherever you choose to go. You need to learn their experiences first before you decide to apply for somebody.
You were saying that you're not a 20-year medic, so you can't speak fully about longevity. The way I look at an 11-year medic is analogous to, they say that if you can run a 5K or a half marathon, you can run a marathon. If you can work for 11 years, you clearly have the attributes to make it to 20 years, right? You've developed those skills.
There's a lot of stuff coming out about mental and physical health. I feel like it was like, maybe it's always been there, but I felt like it was really, really predominant last year, the huge push for it. That's when I heard so much about it.
I'm completely with you on that.
We're really talking about this now.
Yes.
And it really did used to be, what'd you expect when you got into this job type of thing. And I was that person when I was, a little bit younger. I was that person. And
what do you mean you were that person? Which person?
I was the person, kind of suck it up, buttercup. This is what this job's all about. You knew that, getting into it. You signed up for this.
That's why I wanted to follow up with you about the job is easy. I was curious. That's one sentence. I wanted to know the whole context in which you were saying that. That's
what I was saying earlier about the mental and the emotional part is where it gets harder. And to me, that's the only hard part, is the mental and emotional part of it. That's the only time it gets difficult.
What I'm hearing from you, if you do it long enough, there is a little fallout.
Like I told you, I'm an open book. I'm going to be completely honest with you during this podcast. I have no issues telling you or your listeners I have sought help plenty of times. I have had my demons. What I didn't do was allow for them to stick around. I've gone to counseling, You have to be willing to admit you need that. And that is not at all a weakness. I feel like when you run a call on a father and son that have both drowned and the mother is screaming in the background that this is all I have, this is my life, literally saying those words, and you keep hearing that in your nightmares, I feel like you can't ignore that. You have to go speak to somebody about that. I think the mood towards seeking help has changed to where it used to be you were soft. I think now people will applaud you for it, right, for admitting, not admitting because that makes it sound bad, just acknowledging you need some help. We are humans. Even the strongest person, I felt like I was a really strong person, can only take so much bad stuff back to back to back because I feel like I'm in a good place mentally.
You appear it. How have you gotten there? And you're explaining it very well, that you're doing the maintenance work.
Yeah, you have to work on it.
Right. In the same way that you would, if your back's hurting, you go figure out the physical therapy to strengthen your back. Same thing with mental health. If you're having the nightmares, you go address it, and then you're done.
Just like you would go for a run to keep up your cardio, you got to go see that mental health specialist.
Yeah.
They are good at it. That is their job. They're experts in their field. And if you go see somebody, this is something I've learned. If you go see somebody, you're not meshing with them, go a different person.
Right.
You need to find somebody that you mesh with, that you can speak with, and you feel like they get you.
I have a colleague who is of the what you might call old school mindset. He's like, what's up with it? Why is everybody talking about PTSD? What's this? He worked in the field for at least a decade. And he's like, I didn't feel any of those effects. And they just weren't cut for the job. Like the classic, like cliche talk.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that kind of talk still exists.
That's dangerous.
Well, here's the piece it's not laughable. It's actually quite serious. He has intense anxiety. And so one day I said to him, I said, hey, do you think there's any possibility that your anxiety is somewhat connected to the fact that you were in EMS for a decade? Like, do you connect those two dots?
I'm medicated for anxiety. I never had this before, this profession.
Yeah.
I absolutely attribute it to this job. And I don't want to paint myself as somebody who's got all these fears or anything like that, because I don't. It's just made you realize and more concerned about things you probably would have never thought of.
Say more about that. Do you mean like driving a car, drownings, things like that?
A lot of things. Yeah. I mean, like I told you earlier about that patient who got tore apart in that car wreck. For the 2 days after that, nobody was allowed to drive me around in a car. I had to be in control of that vehicle. Yeah. And I just couldn't help it. I was very, very anxious and nervous about that. It was gone after 2 days. But other than that, I mean, just this is a general fear of I don't want to lose somebody, and I don't want to be in a situation that I see other people in. I don't want to have these health problems that I see other people have, and I have a certain anxiety towards that. I would have never made a rule that whenever the light turns green, you wait 5 seconds and you look both ways before you go through the intersection. Yeah. No matter how many times someone honks at you from behind, I would just be like, green light, here I go, and
right.
It definitely changes things about you. And I don't think that's a bad thing to learn to pause at a red light. But yeah, I mean, I'm certainly not trying to convey that I have all these fears or that I'm, anything, because I don't. I don't. Like I told you, I'm just trying to be completely honest and open with you and tell you everything. And I think that kind of mindset of just not cut for the job is a dangerous mindset.
Same here.
Saying that out loud has so many implications. Somebody might hear you like a student, see something that troubles them, and remember that you said that, and because of that, not seek help. You might have done damage to somebody, and I think that's dangerous talk.
I relate to everything you're saying so fully. Just to get my boots back on the ground, I joined this search and rescue group. We were doing a search for a young girl who was out playing in her yard. Actually, in the yard would flood because there's a nearby creek during floodings that happen here in Central Texas. And she was out with her brother. They both kind of got swept away, swept under. He managed to get out, but she was lost for a while. And so we were searching for her, hoping she had been swept downstream. We were going to find her clinging to a tree or something. And we ended up finding her basically right where they had started, finding her body. I remember some of the leaders saying, okay, we're about to pull her out. Like we've located the body. Literally, they manually found her with their hands underwater. Anybody that wants to turn around, turn around. And I thought, I don't need to turn around. You were talking about dismemberment, and I've seen the gore.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm good. And I wish I'd turned around. Like, that was dumb. Like, I had the opportunity to not have to engage that image. But I didn't. Where I'm going with the story is that about a month later, I'd taken my daughter to see my sister, and they were dragging her on a tube behind a pontoon. And she's a great swimmer. She had on a life jacket, no worries. Well, this tube submarined under the water, and it created like this vortex of water, and it held her under before she popped up with the life jacket, and it felt like an eternity. I truly became a mess. I got back on the boat and just sat still, and I didn't want her to see it, my daughter to see that I'd become such a mess.
Yeah.
And I didn't want my sister to see it. I don't think they did. I truly just covered it. I didn't even want to know that about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that stuff, it changes those little experiences. I think some people would be like, yeah, she's under, like she's going to pop back up. Like, I think they'd be more relaxed about it. I know what now, like, this is graphic, but I know what it looks like to pull out similarly aged girl from the water.
Yeah.
And it's like my mind it's amazing how fast your brain can go. It just went there like so quick. I was already at the end of it, and we're pulling her body out.
I 100% relate to that. I have a vision in my head of dead, pale kids in the SIDS age. Oh my God. Walking into his room in the morning, if he wasn't up yet, it's silly because I'm fearing that I was about to see my kid that way. When really I should have been, all right, slept in. I got to sleep in, and, I too have had the kid pulled out of the water. That's the one I was talking about earlier about the kid and his father. And, the worst part about that call is he was right at the boat dock. He was right there. Mm-hmm. And I think we were searching a little bit further out. I wasn't in the water, but I think we were searching a little bit farther out, but he was right in front of us. That wouldn't have changed anything. I mean, the end result would have been the same. But this whole time, he was like right at our feet.
Yeah.
And
I think that's an important piece, because that's how tragic it is, because that's why you pause at the stoplight, because you realize like it's these little near misses, like especially with trauma.
Yeah.
It's fragile.
Hats off to anybody who is a search and rescue diver. Texas doesn't have clear water. And so you're down there with your hands, and all of a sudden something pops up in front of you. And like I tell the people who do the search and rescues, I'm like, that's the stuff nightmares are made out of, man. Oh, yeah. And because literally you're just swimming along, feeling with your hands, and a face can pop up in front of you.
Yeah, I know.
And they're like, yeah, it is a nightmare. We have a nightmare about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, certainly you're on to something there with, attributing something you see on a call to everyday life. Mm-hmm. That's typically just an overreaction. At least mine were.
What's your favorite kind of call to run?
My favorite call, if I'm being 100% honest with you, it's if I have to go and something has to happen to you, I wish it's a single vehicle non-injury accident. Those are my favorites, because usually I show up and a lot of times it's all giggles, and I can just I can make you laugh or something, and we can, that's a good thing, and so, but definitely the most interesting types of calls, just those real in depth. I'm not a big fan of trauma. It's just so, I don't feel like your brain is being utilized to its fullest during those, I mean, on a complex medical call, but there's just a lot more involved, and it's really cool to see the treatments reverse something or change something.
Yeah. You know what comes to mind as you're describing that is like a severe allergic reaction.
Yeah.
It's like, man, you visibly get to see it clear up right in front of you.
If you're real aggressive on top of a bad CHFer and they really take to the treatment, that's all. I find that to be very interesting. The amount of which you can turn them around by the time you get to the ER. Definitely the look on the patient's face, like, dang, what a ride. Like, I feel like that 30 minutes, we really achieved something. I feel a lot better, and so those are cool.
Yeah.
But what about you? What was your favorite type of call?
Well, this is going to reveal a little bit about myself because it's not in the patient's best interest. I really liked STEMIs.
Yeah.
Where I worked was an hour away from a cath lab. I liked the ticking clock and racing time. It was always surreal to tell people, I need to let you know, you're having a heart attack.
Right. Yeah, I have a line I always use on that one.
What is it?
It's always, I run the 12 lead. I read it. My partner reads it. We give each other the I look over to the patient and I tell them very calmly, sir or ma'am, it appears you're having a heart attack, but I promise you, I'm going to do everything to take care of you. We're going to get you to the hospital. We're going to take you to the cath lab, and I'll explain to them on the way to the hospital what happens. But, I'll tell them, John, I got you. I'm going to take care of you. I don't believe that's giving false hope by saying, John, I got you. I'm going to take care of you, because I mean it. I'm going to take care of you. Even if this goes south, I'm still going to be taking care of you. So you're having a heart attack, but I'm going to take care of you.
Yeah.
And, they kind of give that look like, let's do this.
Right, because they often already know.
Yeah.
They feel so terrible. It doesn't surprise them when you give them that info.
Yeah.
Always gave it a little preface. Like, man, I need to let you know, this is not good, right? We're going to take care of you, but you're ill.
Yeah, and I always can add a little, like, if I don't feel like they're grasping what that means, like, your heart's sick. But most of the time, in my experience, they kind of get it. Heart attack's bad, But if they don't, I feel like I need to inform them so they're taking this, or so they know what to expect, the seriousness of this. So.
Let's wind it down, because we're going to balance your family and podcast time today.
Alrighty.
Thanks for letting me come to your house. Thanks for letting me get to know you.
Yeah, I wanted you to come out here just so you could get to know me a little more.
I'm so glad I did. It's kind of like in EMS, how quickly we get to know our patients by seeing how they hang out at home.
Yeah, it's people ask me how I like my new house, and I'm like, I've been in thousands of houses, I feel like, and they're just those houses that feel comfortable.
Yep.
And this one to me feels comfortable.
I'm very comfortable right now.
Yeah, I like this house. So
cool. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I don't have.
You don't have a sign off?
No. Create one for me, quick.
Medic mindset out.
One last thing before you go. The guests on this show come with one intention. They all tell me they hope the listeners can relate to what they say and that their words can normalize the experiences for other medics. Their intentions are 100% altruistic. And I know this because their only gain is an occasional medic mindset sticker or some other medic mindset swag. There is one other payoff for them, and that is messages from you guys. If you want to leave a message of gratitude or have a follow-up question for a guest, post it in the Medic Mindset group on Facebook. All right, that's it for now. Y'all take care.
My daddy.
Yes.
That's your daddy.
All right. You ready to go with Mama again?
No.
No?
Ever.
You got to go back over with Mama.
No.